My name is Noel Kelly. This is my industry expert review for week 3. The podcast that I chose to review was from entertainmentlawupdate.com. It was called Drones and Dead Rockers. They spent the first half of the podcast talking about drones and as it pertains to film and movies. What I want to focus on is the second half, which was Prince and his estate and all of the legalities attached to that and what the estate is dealing with. So I kind of want to run down quickly what's going on with his estate and some of the things that I learned. Right of publicity. This was a new term for me, so I did a little more research on it, which was interesting. Gives people the right to control their likeness and their persona and to profit from it after death. Even more interesting is this is not federal protection that is being offered. This is protection offered only on a state-by-state basis, as we tend to handle personal rights only at the state level. And right of publicity would be considered a personal right. There is no current law in the state of Minnesota, which is where most of his assets are being held, where he died, where his family members are. There was a bill on the floor of the State House of Representatives introduced by Joe Hopp called the Prince Act, acronym Personal Rights in Name Can Endure. This would have been the first state law introduced that would have given celebrities and anybody in Minnesota the right of publicity and privacy. It was pulled because they felt Representative Hopp rushed into it. He plans to reintroduce it again next year, but essentially it would have given the right to publicity for anybody in the state of Minnesota for 50 years after their death. And because it was inspired by Prince, it would have been obviously retroactively applied to his estate, which would have helped the estate save or make millions, however you look at it, because unfortunately he did not take care of business while he was alive. Prince was notoriously bad at paperwork. He hated legal documentation. He didn't trust anybody, especially lawyers. This has kind of led to an all-out brawl and a quagmire of an estate battle. He had trust issues. He now has trust issues. Some of the quick facts about Prince. We don't know if he set up a will and trust. The early reports indicate he did not, but there are still people looking, but most likely he did not. He was not good at it, so I would not be surprised if there is no will and trust. This type of uncertainty, obviously, when the last line of defense dies, in this case Prince, everyone comes out of the woodwork and claims they have ownership to a piece of his multi-million-dollar pie. Most likely, if there is no will or trust, it'll be managed by a probate court. And anybody who does stand to inherit something will most likely also inherit some of his debt and some issues with the IRS, who love to come in posthumously evaluate celebrity holdings and real property and mark them up because of what they're worth currently in the current market after a celebrity dies. What we know is his catalog is worth anywhere between 200 and 400 million. No definitive number, but he owns his masters, he owns his copyrights, he owned all of his publishing. He does not split any of his catalog with anyone, and it's one of the most comprehensive music catalogs in the history of modern music. So we do know it is worth a lot of money. Also, his Paisley Park compound, this is one area where the IRS might come in because he's got a lot of memorabilia in there, and a lot of that memorabilia is now worth more because he had died, and they love to do that. And had Prince taken care of business when he was alive and set up some sort of deal with the IRS, that might not be the issue. But now the valuation process will skyrocket, and all of this real estate and memorabilia inside of Paisley Park will be worth a lot more. Who gets what? Prince has one living full sister. He's got 7 half-brothers and sisters. No kids yet. But under Minnesota state law, all will inherit equally. So still a long way to go for this to be resolved, but from a legal standpoint, the podcast was very informative, and there's a lot we can learn from Prince while he lived, and probably even more from a legal standpoint in his death.